We are going to continue with our notes. We are going to finish up this idea of visiting that we started the last time around. Let me ask this before we get started with this. Were there any questions about what was covered in the material on the videos about how to win a soul because you didn't have any interaction with the teacher except for having to look at the screen, sorry, and look at me the whole time? Any questions about that? You're all well equipped? All right. That's 2 hours worth of someone telling you how to win a soul. So it's a lot of time. Hopefully it gives you some ideas, even those of you who have been active in winning souls. At least it'll give you some more ideas and some other things to maybe to watch, include, check. It's always good to brush up. Visiting. We talked about types of visiting. We talked, did I give you number 2, the time for visiting? I did not? I just did. Number 2, time for visiting. Be sure you get out every week. You say, why? I don't know why, just because it's a good thing to do. Because if you don't have a set time, you probably won't do it. So it's good to try to keep our digital devices quiet while the teacher is teaching. So, time for visiting. So try to get out, or be sure to get out every week. Is that in the Bible? No. So, are you backslidden reprobate if you didn't get out every week? Like maybe you were sick in the hospital and no, it's, why do we say get out every week? Because it's good to have a scheduled time. If you don't do it, then you're probably going to continue not doing something. Does that make sense? If you're used to doing something on a regular habit, it'll be more likely that you'll do it on a regular habit later. The Bible teaches in 2 Timothy chapter 4 that we're supposed to be instant, in season, out of season. So to me, it seems like there should be an in season. That's a scheduled time to go soul winning that you should have. Out of season is when you're out and about. When you're out at the store, the doctor's office, wherever, you have those opportunities where you can give out the gospel. So in season, out of season is kind of what I like. Now, Saturdays and evenings seem to be best. You'll get in different parts of the country. You'll get in different parts of the world. And some things aren't going to work well. Saturday morning visitation in Zambia doesn't work very well. You say, why? Well, their work week is Monday through Friday in the morning to the evening, and Saturday morning till about midday. That is their work week. So if they have a regular scheduled job, most people still work on Saturdays. Not all, but most people. So we would go Saturday afternoon soul winning. That's what we did. You adjust to what you have. Okay. So Saturdays and evenings are best. Evenings, is, you go to some neighborhoods in the evening, after dark, you'll probably get shot. So there's a lot of things you have to keep in mind. Times of the year, seasons, when it's -5 below out and there's snow all over the place and it gets dark at 4 something in the afternoon and you're knocking on someone's door at 7 o'clock canvassing, hey, we're out here, and you got icicles hanging down off your nose. And, hey, would you like to come out to church? And you are nuts, I'm not saying you shouldn't ever do that. I'm just saying you'll have to make adjustments. Use wisdom with holidays. Okay. You might not want to go visiting on Christmas morning. Yeah, but it's Saturday morning. That's the time we go bus visiting. Well, maybe you should go sometime other time. Because Saturday morning, they don't want to see you. Okay? And you probably don't want to see some of them in the condition they are from the hangover from the night before. But what if the kids have Columbus Day off? Well, then it'd be okay to go out there on a holiday and go see them, something like that. Christmas break, summer vacations are also good times to get in extra visits. All right, so time for visiting. Just the idea is make sure you have time and make sure you make time and make sure you get out time to and keep a regular habit. If you don't have a regular time, you probably won't do it. So, number 3, tips for visiting. Let me give you some tips for visiting. Letter A, be prayed up. Be prayed up. You know, when you go out visiting, you really need to ask God to use you. Just don't go through the motions. It's good to have a regular scheduled time, but it's not good to go and just do it because that's what you do every Saturday, or that's what you do every Tuesday, or whenever you go. You just don't get in the habit. We need to learn to depend on God and have God's power in our life. We heard a good message about that last night, didn't we? Go into our ministries with God's power in our life. All right, so we really need to be prayed up and ask God to give us opportunities to speak to people. So, well, I'm on the bus route. You know, I'm going to see these people over and over again. Well, you always should be looking for opportunities, but you won't be looking for opportunities. You haven't been praying for opportunities. I find that what I pray about, I tend to do something about. If I'm praying for opportunities, then when I go out, I'm going to look for, what am I looking for? People to talk to. Because if I prayed like I really meant it, that I really wanted God to show me someone to talk to and prepare someone's heart, then when I get out, I'm looking for that. But a lot of times we don't have any opportunities because we're not ready to be used. So we need to be prayed up. And you really don't want to miss an opportunity. My dad likes to call them divine appointments. Just opportunities that you didn't know were there, and then God had it all arranged, set up, and boom. And you don't want to miss a divine appointment. No, letter B, be prepared. So be prayed up, but secondly, be prepared. If you're canvassing, this sounds pretty old-fashioned, but bring a map. Paper. Yeah, but I get it on my phone. Well, you can mark up a piece of paper a little bit easier and save it for later and bring it back out and see which side of the street you did and didn't do and all that. But however you want to do it, do it. But be prepared. If you're canvassing, have a map. Have some tracks. Okay, always carry tracks. You get out there, oh, I forgot the tracks. And then you can drive all the way back to get tracks, or you say, well, forget it, we just won't go canvassing. Flyers, if you have church flyers or flyers for the bus route, whatever you're canvassing for. Here's another one that's important. A couple of 3x5 cards. Why would you need 3x5 cards?
To write down references if they want to have them.
Well, it could be a couple of reasons. First of all, you might be keeping track if you're, depending on how you're canvassing. Some people go canvassing and they'll just leave a tract in every door that's not home. Other people, when they go canvassing, they're going to write down every house number on the street, and if they get an answer, they circle it. If they don't get an answer, they have the number down, and they're going to go back the next week or another time. And they're going to try to keep going back to all the houses. Maybe if they keep striking out on Saturday mornings, they might go Saturday afternoon or some evening, and they're going to keep going back until every person on that street they've actually made a contact with. It's a way, in going back, we call them doing no homes, going back and redoing. And I found people who are interested. I found people who got saved because we went back and redid a street where we didn't make contact with people. So you want to keep 3x5 cards, and then also you want to keep them in case you get a good contact. What if someone does get saved, or someone's interested in riding the bus, or they're really busy, they want you to come back next week, or whatever it is, you'll be able to want to write down names, addresses, phone numbers where it's appropriate. Another thing you should always have, it's great to have a 3x5 card, but if you don't have a pen, it's like, ever been there before? I have too. It's like, let me write that down. Can't write it down. Can I borrow your pen? So you want to bring a pen. And, of course, a Bible. So if you're going canvassing, be prepared with all those things. If you're doing follow-up visits, make sure you have your Bible, but also make sure you bring some discipleship material. If you're going out for bus, be ready for anything, because you have no idea what you're going to meet and come across sometimes. So if you're going on the bus route, be prepared. What if someone had asked you a question about the Bible the week before, and you said, I'll get back to you about that. And you show up the next week, and you don't have an answer. How do you look? Yes, not only unprepared, but yeah, we'll just say, leave it there. So look up answers to questions that people have about the Bible, okay? You can bring flyers, verse tokens. I'm giving you some different things you should be prepared for when you're going out as doing bus visiting here. Verse tokens, gimmicks. Maybe you promised everyone a bouncy ball, and you ran out of them. And by the way, if you ran out of them, which kids don't get it first? I mean, which kids do you give the bouncy ball to first, and which ones are you going to stiff? Well, you explain to your good kids and say, hey, you guys come every week. I'll make up for it, and I'll get it yours when I get some more next week or something like that. And then give them a little something extra too. But a visitor, this is your first impression. If you promise them something, make sure they get it first. Okay? All right, so bring gimmicks that you may owe. Oh, here's another one that gets bus captains killed. My son had a brand new hat he got for Christmas. And he wore it on the bus. And we haven't seen it since then. I want that hat. So what are you going to be doing? You're going to be looking for that hat. And then you're going to say, oh, they say that, and so I will check the bus. All right? So Sunday morning comes around, or the next week or whatever, you forgot to check the bus, and they're looking for the hat. And you are toast, because you're going to catch the wrath of mom once again. Coats, hats, shoes. I don't know why they leave shoes, but they leave shoes. All sorts of things they'll leave, and you are responsible. Because you say, well, I shouldn't be responsible. If it's at home, who's responsible? The parents? Right. And because the parents have just trusted them with you, who's now responsible? You. So, well, fine, I'll just leave them at home. Then stop having a bus ministry, right? Either that or just learn to try to be responsible and try to take care of things. And guess what? Every once in a while, you might have to go and buy a coat or a hat or a pair of mittens or something like that. And if you're going roller skating and they've got, $150 Jordans on, don't let them turn them in at the counter. You take them and keep them with you. Make sure he goes home with the $150 Jordans. All right, bring any forms you need to fill out, anything like that. Now, the I forgot is a kind of a lame excuse and shows that you don't care about their requests or their needs. Mr. Dave, did you remember this? I forgot. Mr. Dave, did you find out an answer to that? I forgot. Mr. Dave, what about my question about the Bible? Oh, I forgot to look it up. Well, Mr. Dave, he doesn't really seem like he cares too much about them because he always forgets about everything. All right, so that is letter B, be prepared. Letter C, have a goal for your visit. You say, what? Yeah, have a goal for your visit. I was on a furlough, one of my furloughs. I was out visiting with a bus captain, and I asked him, so when we get up to a house, I said, so what's your goal for this visit? He just kind of looked at me and was like, goal? What do you mean? I'm visiting them. And I was like, just what was your goal? What are you trying to get accomplished with this family? He's like, goal? We're just going for a visit, man. No, we're not just visiting people. For every person, whether it's a nursing home, you know the people in the nursing home, whether it's Bible club, Sunday school visits, you should have a goal for that family, and you should try to have a goal for that visit. Now, with some people, the goal might be, you never even see the parent, and the parent never even comes to the door. Maybe the goal is, man, I want to get to talk to a parent today. Or maybe the goal is, man, I've never been in this house yet. I want to get into this house someday where I can sit down and talk to them a little bit more. Or the goal will be, I want to work with this one more on salvation, or this one's gotten saved, I want to help ground them a little bit. Whatever your goal is. You might have a goal just to get through without getting, eaten up by cockroaches or something, You never know. You just have to have I'm just teasing on that one. Okay. You have to have a goal when you go and try to get something accomplished. All right? You won't always reach your goal, but you should be aiming at something, and that's the purpose. Aiming something. Have something you want in mind to accomplish with each home there. Doesn't have to be big. It just has to be focused in something. Obviously, your main goal is to see everybody saved. And then people coming out to church, getting baptized, and eventually driving in, not being bus riders anymore. That's what you eventually want to happen. Sometimes just one thought from Scripture in a conversation along the way might be your goal. I want to get in one Bible verse. I want to talk one thought. I want to sow one seed at this home. That's a good goal to have. Okay, even if you're out canvassing, a good goal. Well, I want to get at least a tract in their hand. And if they don't take the tract, at least quote a verse or something. Just trying to sow something, drop a little something there. A lot of times, sometimes the kids, some of the kids out there are pretty rambunctious. And oftentimes I'd have the verse, and one of my goals sometimes would be just to read the verse with the kids and explain it a little bit. And that would give them a thought, they might not have a huge attention span, but at least get them thinking about the Lord, about His Word, about one principle. It was what we're going to be talking about on the bus tomorrow. And then that goes a long way with the parents too. And a lot of times when you're going over a Bible verse and you're trying to teach the kids something, you'll see the parent say, yeah, you need that. That's why I send you to church. And so what are you doing? You're teaching the kids. You're building trust with the parents too. It's not just about getting a lollipop every week. It's about you're concerned for them. You want the best for them. And a lot of parents have never been raised in church. They don't have discipline. They don't have character. And really, believe it or not, you look at them, you say, they don't care about their kids. Some of them actually do. That's why they send them to church. They want them to be better than they are. Okay, so don't be so quick to judge all the parents and say, oh, they're worthless. A lot of them, they really do care, and they want better for them than what they have. So always reiterate to the parents that you're there to help them with their children. Okay, so that's a good goal for especially bus visiting. Okay, we just finished up visiting. That was capital letter D. Capital letter E, giving a testimony. In some of your ministries, you'll be asked to give a testimony. For example, what is one ministry that does that frequently? Nursing homes frequently ask you to give a testimony, and that's part of the service that's part of the service in the nursing home ministries that workers are asked to give their testimony. It's kind of like on a rotation basis. And because many people have never been taught what a testimony is or how to give a testimony, they end up preaching a sermonette. Oh yeah. And that becomes especially a problem when it's the woman who's doing the preaching. They were supposed to be giving a testimony, and they're up there now telling everybody what they need to do in their life. They are literally preaching a small little sermon, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And we're going to take this little occasion here to help you learn how to give, what a testimony is, how to give a testimony, and so that you know that you're not just supposed to get up and preach, because that's the easy way out. Okay, but that's not really what a testimony is. All right, so number one, what a testimony is. Number one is what a testimony is. All right, Thomas, I think we could kind of, some of the girls are struggling, and James. I just, what a testimony is. The word testimony is defined this way: a declaration, affirmation, witness, evidence, proof of some fact. Declaration, affirmation, witness, evidence, proof of some fact. So when given a testimony, you are declaring a fact and providing evidence based on a personal experience. That's kind of my definition. I like mine better than the dictionary because I put them all together. Okay? So when giving a testimony, you are declaring a fact and providing evidence based on personal experience. John chapter 3, verse 11, if you're interested in Bible references. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, we speak that we do know, and testify that we have seen, and ye receive not our witness. Okay, so here they were saying, we testify. Luke 16, verse 28. For I have 5 brethren that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Acts 1:8, of course, we all are familiar with this one. But ye shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and ye shall be witnesses. That's the idea of testifying, giving a testimony. Witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and to the uttermost part of the earth. That idea there in Acts 1:8 is not just go soul winning. It is be a witness. Tell people what God has done for you. You know, when you go stand at the door and talk to somebody about salvation, they might want to argue with doctrine. They might want to argue with what their church teaches. But it's very hard for them to argue with what you've seen God do in your life and how He's changed your life and what you were and what you are now. And testimony is a pretty powerful thing. And there's a lot of other people out there having the same problems that you have that you can help them identify with and find some hope and help. Acts chapter 2, verse 32, another verse then on testimonies. This Jesus hath God raised up, whereof we are all witnesses. Oh, that was good. That we are all witnesses. So what should we all be doing? Witnessing. So we should all be testifying. We should all be giving a testimony. All right? We should all be given a testimony. Now, if you're working with somebody out there in the world, you're not going to have necessarily an opportunity to go through the entire plan of salvation every day that you work with them. But you can testify what God's done in your life and share what God has done and what He is doing. And then here and there, weave some of the plan of salvation. And when you have a good opportunity at a break or after work or some occasion, then you can sit down and go through the whole plan of salvation. It puts some punch behind your message. Okay, because you've got something they don't have. All right, so testimony is an exciting thing. So let's get back to this idea. So to give a testimony, we explain what we have personally witnessed God do for us. That's what the idea is. So that's what a testimony is. So number 2, how to give a testimony. That's what I want to talk about now. How to give a testimony. Now, I'm going to break this down because there's 2 basic types of testimonies. Okay? I'll tell you the 2 basic types of testimonies, and I'll go through each one of them. So leave some space before you write the second one. The first kind is a salvation testimony. I have a few things to say before I get to the other thing, but the other thing will be Christian living testimony. Okay? So, salvation testimony. Consider following this simple outline. I'll give you 4 different things that you can include in a salvation testimony. Number 1, it's just a little outline just to give you an idea on how to put together a salvation testimony. How you were before you were saved. You might want to include how you were before you were saved. Okay, what was your life like? Confused about religion? Miserable? because of the way you lived? Reckless? Proud? Maybe you were a pleasure seeker? Okay. Or maybe you want to include here the situation and the events that led to your conversion. Okay. So these are some things you want to include. How you were before you saved. Secondly, what you believed in prior to salvation. What you believed in prior to salvation. What did you think was going to get you to heaven? Perhaps you thought baptism, your baptism as a baby, was going to get you to heaven. Maybe you thought good works got you saved, or going to church brought salvation. And especially what you're trying to do is identify with the person you're listening, or you're talking to, okay? If you know what church, and it's good to find out what church they go to, and I'm talking personal witnessing now, but okay, so now you've got a group out there, you maybe know you've got a couple of different people, maybe with a Catholic background, so you might want to include, maybe you had a Catholic background. You don't necessarily want to attack the Roman Catholic Church in your testimony, but what you can do is talk about what you believed, knowing that that's what they've believed, and you're trying to get them to start doubting what they believe, because you're going to show them how you changed. Okay, let's continue then. So you want to talk about how you were before you were saved, what you believed in prior to salvation, and thirdly, how you heard the gospel. How you heard the gospel. Did someone witness to you? Did you read a tract? Did you go to a church service? How did you hear the gospel? And you might want to include, if it's pertinent to your testimony, how many times you heard the gospel before you got saved. You know, I read a tract, the first time I heard the gospel, I got saved. I understood it. Or I went to church, man, I heard that. Or maybe I went to church and I heard it. And I bristled up. I went back. I didn't want to go back ever again. I went back, the next week. I heard it again. Softened up a little bit more. Whatever your testimony is, just include it. You might want to include what was your reaction to the gospel the first time you heard it. Maybe you had a shocking, like, man, you felt so convicted you want nothing to do with this again. You don't want to go back in church ever again. Or maybe it didn't make sense to you. You thought you were okay and now you have a few doubts. Whatever. Number 4. What changes God made since being saved? So talk about the peace that God brought to your heart. The joy that you have of being forgiven. Okay, the confidence that you have knowing that now you're going to heaven before you didn't know. Now you know. The assurance. The removal of guilt. You don't feel guilty anymore about all those things you did. The closeness that you have to God. These are things that people don't have if they're not saved. So explain what God has done for you. And discuss how you've had victory over sin and answers to prayer and a clearer understanding of the Bible. So, the Bible makes more sense now. I used to not really know much about it or understand it when I read it before, but now it makes sense. They're lost. They're out sitting out there. They're thinking, that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm missing something. Okay? You're trying to go about and explain how you got saved and all the different things go. That's not the only way to give your salvation testimony, but that's a simple outline that you could follow when you want to prepare it and give it to people. You're not going to do that every time you get up in the nursing home because, some people might not remember it the next time you gave it, but some people say, yeah, didn't you say that last time? Because there are some people very sharp. So the next kind of testimony, not only a salvation testimony, but a Christian living testimony. Christian living testimony. Oh, by the way, the testimony, your salvation testimony, even just to go back on how to win a soul, just in personal witnessing, it's very, very powerful. My wife and I, we were out in Salt Lake City at a missions conference during Empowered Youth. And one of the days we went down to the Mormon Tabernacle and went to their visitor centers and went to Brigham Young's house, and they have all the sisters, these young ladies, groups of 2, walk around and They want to talk to you and guide you. And you've been down there? All right. And they're always very friendly, very, very, very friendly, very, very positive. And, you know, we got to witness to 2 of them in Brigham Young's house. And I was trying to give more testimony instead of just coming out and attacking what they believe. If you get into a fight, then that's not very helpful. But then we went to the the North Visitor Center, and the first floor looks pretty normal Bible stories type of thing. But then you get downstairs, and whoa, that stuff is weird down there. I mean, it's just really strange stuff. And then a couple of the sisters came around the corner. Hey, how are you doing? They started talking. So I had a couple questions. I said, so now how long, were you born in this, or did you convert to this? And then the one was, they each told me how that they were both basically brought up in it. And then one of the ladies said, young lady said, so well, what's your testimony? I was like, oh yeah, here we go. And well, praise the Lord. And I just, knowing some of what they believed and what the Bible taught, and just was able to go through the Bible and try to weave in my testimony. They couldn't argue with that, you know. And it was really exciting to be able to do that. And we were there quite a while talking to them. So you can really make a difference with a testimony, because you know that what they have isn't real. And when they see that what you have is real, and you're using scriptures and some of what you're saying is not adding up with what they believed, you can start causing people to start questioning what they've been taught. All right, so let's get on to the Christian living testimony. So maybe you can consider following this simple little outline when you're preparing a testimony. Number 1, you want to talk about the problem or the situation. And most testimonies that you're going to get up, you're either going to talk about a problem that you had, how God got you through it, or a situation that you faced that you needed God's help and how He intervened, that type of thing. So you're going to have to address it. You're going to talk about what it is. Now, please don't glorify sin about bragging how bad you are and how you were. Okay? You know, even with your salvation testimony. Okay, you don't have to get into every minute detail. Then, so you want to talk about the problem. Because you're trying to address the truth that you learned through the situation or through the problem. Okay? Whatever this experience was, you're going to mention what the problem was, situation you faced, and what God taught you out of it, through it. So the second thing is your reaction. So maybe you have this problem that you came across or the situation that you faced, and you want to talk about how you handled it, your reaction. How do you handle it? Do we always handle it right? No. In fact, most times we handle things the wrong way. And if you reacted the wrong way, you might want to say, I got mad at God, or I questioned God, or I didn't understand what He was doing. I was asking Him why. And you don't have to go into all the details about specific sins, okay? But it's okay to explain how you reacted. And then you want to tell what you did to seek God's help. Okay? So maybe your reaction was wrong at first, but then you switched and said, oh, now I need God's help. I need help through this. So talk about what you did. Did you go talk to someone? Did you find a verse in the Bible? Whatever it was. Or God spoke to you through a sermon. And then number 3, you want to talk about God's intervention, because it's not all about you, it's about who? It's about giving glory to God and what you've seen God do. Now, giving a testimony sometimes can be kind of humbling, because you're going to talk about a weakness, a problem. And sometimes you see people get choked up. You say, oh, they're just weak. No, God really dealt with them, and they're really moved about what God did in their life. And maybe it'd be good if you had an experience where God really moved in your heart and life too. Wouldn't that be fun? So you're talking about, thirdly here, God's intervention. Explain how God delivered you from your situation or helped you through your problem. Okay? Perhaps his intervention involved chastening. Oh, yeah. Or instruction from a sermon or from your devotions. God gave you something from your devotions. Or God gave you, boy, the sermon was right exactly what you needed at the right time, and God gave you the victory. But sometimes it is through chastening. Right? My wife and I, we were talking to someone recently, and they said, yeah, this problem happened, and they're just giving a personal testimony to us, not in front of a group or anything, just, yeah, something bad. They told us what happened in their life and said, I know why that happened. God was chastening me because I was doing this and this and this and this. So, yeah, it's good that they figured that out, and they were not bragging about that they had done wrong, that they were just thankful that God got a hold of them and showed them what they needed to be doing. I remember one of the young men in one of the churches got up to give a testimony one time, and he talked about how, well, what had happened. The car was overheating, and he unscrewed the radiator cap, and it blew up in his face, and his face got burnt and all that. And he said, I know why that happened. So he's up giving his testimony in front of church. He says, the reason why is because he says, I wasn't having my devotions like I know I was supposed to. I wasn't serving God, and I had gotten away from walking with God, and God was getting my attention. And he was just explaining, hey, this is what God did. He intervened, he got my attention, and guess what he started doing? He started reading his Bible again. Amen? So, number 4, lessons learned. This is another thing you want to include in your testimony on Christian living. Okay? Your purpose, again, is to glorify God and to exalt Him, not glorify yourself. Yeah, I'm a better person because you see what I did. No. This is what God did, and this is how He showed Himself. This is how He magnified Himself in my life. And you want to conclude by saying what the Lord taught you through the situation. Okay? You're not preaching. This is where you got to be careful that you don't get into the preaching, ladies. Just state what God, you're testifying, what God did, what you experienced, and what He taught you through the situation. Okay? At the end, if you want to say, now what He did for me, He can do for you, that's fine. Okay? But don't try to make a bunch of applications to the listener, because that leads to sermonizing. You say, but sometimes some of the Sunday morning guys, they do that. That's okay, they haven't had this class anyway. So, and don't be sitting there setting yourself up as a judge. And it's not the end of the world if a guy sometimes will do that, if they're not instructed otherwise. All right, but it is a problem if the girls get up and start preaching. So, okay. And then, this is not part of this, but just if you're asked to give a testimony, find out how much time they want you to give the testimony. Because if there's only so much time to give a service, and you're giving a testimony. I was in a service. I went to a church, visiting a church, and it was their big day. And the guy got up. He was asked to give his testimony, salvation testimony, and he gave the entire salvation testimony. He went on and on and on and on. It was like at least 15 minutes. He just kept going on and on and on. It was good testimony, but save a little bit of time for the preaching and the rest of the service, okay? All right, so let's continue there. So letter E, not D, was giving your testimony. Letter F, running a program. Oh yes, we'll have to go quickly through this. I think I can get this done though. And that'll leave next time we meet for storytelling. And I got quite a bit I want to talk about that, how to tell stories. And if we have a little time at the end, maybe we'll do a little bit of some gospel tricks so you can learn how to tie those in as object lessons. But today we're going to talk letter F about running a program. typically we think about this on the bus route, running a program on the bus route. So, number one, how do you run a program? Well, review the program first thing in the morning, okay? Review the program first thing in the morning. While you're on the bus, riding out to your first visit, it's good to discuss who's got what you're doing, okay? Now, so-and-so, you've got the game, you've got songs, you've got the story, just who's got the treat, where is everything? Just talk. It doesn't take long. Just talk and make sure you know who's got what and what's going to happen and who can help. We had, when I had a route, well, I'll tell you, I had some very, very good workers. I had some outstanding workers, and they could keep things running, and they worked as a team. It was wonderful. It was a good thing. It took a lot of work to get that way, but we got it organized, and we had a program. The ladies knew what they were going to do. The guys knew what they were supposed to do. The guys didn't always do what they were supposed to do. But the ladies were very good on our bus. So number two, gear it for the appropriate age. Gear it for the appropriate age. Now, this is not just for the bus route, but the bus route, that's more difficult because you have every age. But if you're just aiming at your teenagers every time you tell a story or preach on the bus, if you preach, some people don't preach on their bus, some people only tell stories, whatever. But if you're only aiming at the teenagers, your little kids are going to get nothing, and they're not going to pay attention, and they're going to disrupt you and annoy you while you're trying to teach teenagers. So don't shoot too high and don't shoot so low. Okay, boys and girls, the Bible says, don't put it on a 2-year-old level either, because then your teenagers are going to be making funny faces like you were just making at me. So gear for the appropriate age. On a bus, you usually have to hit toward the middle. If you preach to like 4th, 5th grade level, a lot of the teenagers are on that level anyway, so it's okay. Number 3, keep it exciting. Keep it exciting. And so when you keep the interest of the children, you're going to prevent a lot of discipline problems. So you get up to tell a story, you get up to preach, you just tell it. Now, I'm telling you, if you don't know your story real well, and you're holding up your visuals, and you got your visuals, and you have to always look around to see what the picture is, and you got your cheat sheet, some notes on the back, and they're not going to be interested. They don't even care. But if you're like really, really into it, then they're going to be with you. All right? And then the bomb blew up. Whoa! And do you want to know what happened next? Come back next week. So you just want to keep things interesting and exciting. And at least it'll keep people awake. Number 4, use variety. Use variety. Vary your visuals. Okay? Vary your games, your activities, your prizes, your quiet seats. Some people, they always go back on the same old thing every time. And use some variety. Okay? Even the songs. On some buses, you get on some buses, it's the same 10 songs every week in a row. Well, make something, why not make a new song visual? There are a lot of children's songs out there. There's more than 10, believe it or not. Okay? Number 5, be prepared. Have everything you need. This is for the bus, and it also goes for a Sunday school class or junior church program. Okay? If you're, you should never have to slip out of your class to get something that you forgot. Sometimes people do that. How are you going to do that in the bus? So you slip out of your bus to do what? Oh, yeah. So be prepared and always have more than enough of everything. We mentioned earlier talking about the questions. It's better to have too many questions. When you're doing the game, I mean, it's always the same one. All right, kids, who wants to play the game? All right, got to answer questions. All right. Who died on the cross? It's the same questions every week. All right? All right. Who killed Goliath? Ooh, okay. And then vary it. You can talk about last week's story, last week's whatever, and take some notes yourself. Yeah. And then ask them some questions. It's kind of what we call a review game. So you're not just wasting time. You know, who's the strongest man in the Bible? Samson. Who's the wisest man in the Bible? Solomon. It's the same stories. Is that the way it is on your bus? If it is, then tell them to read these notes. Okay? And what this takes is a little bit of preparation. It takes some time to write out some questions that might be interesting. All right? So, here's one I've used before. I like this one. Maybe I've used this in here. What was Peter's last name? No. College students, you know Peter's last name? Peter's last name is Peter. Simon, whose surname was? Oh, surname is what? See? See, I got you. All right, so now you've got one for bus. One question. One new question you have on bus. Now you can go home and use that. It's always good to have an extra game. You're on the bus to the zoo, and your game is getting old after 35 minutes. You need something else, okay? So get another game. And by the way, with a program, it's not just 30 minutes or 20 minutes of game, 20 minutes of singing. You interchange, you mix it up a little bit, okay? You have a couple songs, you play the game shortly. You have another song, maybe you play the game a little bit more. Then you have a couple more songs, or then you say, okay, let's take a break, let's do the verse. After the verse, you do another song or two, then you play the game. So it's not just one thing for 10 or 15 minutes, and then the next thing for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's okay, we've done. No, you're keeping the variety going. So be prepared. Always have more than enough of everything. Number 6, maintain order. Maintain order. This is everyone's job, except for the bus blob, right? The bus blob always sits in the back and plays with the kids and creates more havoc than anything else. But everyone's job, you cover for one another, okay? If one person's up telling a story, you're back there helping out, making sure everyone's quiet. You don't leave it in a classroom situation even for the teacher to quiet the class down. You quiet the class down. Now, I remember my wife was telling a story on the bus one time, and there was 3 workers standing behind her. Where should the workers have been? Sitting with the kids. And then she asked, why weren't you sitting down? There were no seats available. Well, I know their bus route. Okay? It's not like there's but maybe it was a fall push and it was too busy. You pick up some kid, and you slide him over, or if you're a lady, sit the little kid in your lap or whatever. All right. Make room and sit with kids. Now, what's one of the best ways you can get order in a classroom or in a bus when there's chaos going on? You get on the bus and say, everybody, shut up! This bus isn't leaving until you guys are quiet. No, it's not the best. Now, I told you I had some very good bus workers, but there were times where maybe I get off the bus, take the kids up to the bus, or to go pick up the kids or whatever. It's usually after church, it's a little bit more rambunctious. Get back to the bus, and there's just like everything is going wrong. I mean, this worker's putting out a fire here. This worker's taking care of 5 kids jumping over the seats over there. This worker's taking care of the kid who's destroying the game. I mean, it's just now there's nobody left to just run the program because everyone now is putting out fires. There are times when that happens. And then I'll get on the bus and say, what on earth are you guys doing? How did you let this spiral out of control like this? No, I don't have time to say that. I'll say that to them on the way home. Okay? But I'd get on the bus, and I'll tell you what it does every time. You sing a song. You just get on the bus, and you just start singing the song. And you'll hear so many of them people just start chiming in. Now, maybe not everybody, but you're going to get people's attention back. And now you can refocus and go somewhere with it. Okay? So you gotta maintain order. Sing that song. Gets them back. All right, number 7, stay on schedule. We've mentioned this before earlier in another section of notes. You have a schedule and you keep it. If you don't, you're going to run short on time for the other things that are important. If you're in a Sunday school class or junior church class and there's no time to deal with kids, you just taught on salvation, but because you wasted time here or there, and now there's no time to give an invitation, no time to deal with anybody, that's kind of defeats the purpose of bringing people and giving them the gospel. So stay on schedule. Number 8, I save the best to last. This is, I don't know if, this is what I call it, and this is what I always stress with my workers. This is the number 1 rule on my bus with my workers was, I'm glad you asked. No dead time. That was the number 1 rule on my bus. No dead time. I don't know, you English majors, am I supposed to have a hyphen between the dead and the time? I don't know. No dead time, okay? This is so important. It's the most important tip I can give you for any program you run with children. If you've been with children, you know one thing about kids. Children are always going to be busy doing something, aren't they? And if you don't keep them busy doing the right thing, they're going to be usually busy doing the wrong thing, right? If I just come into class and just stand here up front and before class starts and you guys just keep talking and talking and talking, if I don't just start teaching or doing something, you guys will keep doing whatever you want to do. I got to keep you guys focused, pointed, and directed and say, this is where we're going. Now, with kids, I mean, they usually just go the wrong way. And so you've got to keep them focused and pointed in the right direction. And if you have dead time, that means nothing's going on. There's no verse, there's no song, there's no game. And even the game you've got to be careful with sometimes, because if you're just sticking with the game and this person is a person playing and all the other people aren't playing, the rest of you back there could care less if he wins the game. Okay? So you want to have a way where you can keep the others involved even with the game. And when some games aren't like that, then you got to bring them all back together again with the song, right? Don't have dead time. There should never be a time on the bus where nothing is happening. Except every once in a while. On the way home from the zoo. And everyone's tired, you're tired. You're more tired than they are, but they're tired. And you say, all right, kids, let's have a frozen contest. And then so you get the kids like, all right, when I say 3, 1, 2, 3. And you see who can stay in that position the longest or whatever. But you don't want to do that forever. I know some bus captains don't like that, but I liked it and we used it and it was helpful on the way home from the zoo. All right, no dead time. No dead time. So, tua mana, tuyo banana, tuyo banana, tuyo banana, tuyo banana, tuyo banana.